So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you all our current NYLA president, Jennifer Cannell, and our incoming president, Claudia Depkin.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Jen Cannell. I'm Assistant Professor and Director of the Graduate School Library Media Program at St. John Fisher College. And as you just heard, I'm also lucky enough to be your NYLA President. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to be able to serve you this year. And I'll turn it over to Claudia to introduce herself.
Thank you, Jen. Good morning, everybody. My name is Claudia Depkin. I'm soon to be president of NYLA. Hours, minutes, I'm not sure exactly how we time it this time. And I'm also the library director of the Haverstraw King's Daughters Public Library in Rockland County. And I'm very excited to be here with you this morning. Thank you. So Jen, we're just going to chat. You know, Jen and I know each other a little bit through our work here in NYLA, and we're going to talk about that. But so we're just going to have a conversation. It's like around two ferns, but we're in our own rooms. So Jen, let's start with just sort of what brought you into NYLA. How long have you been a member, and how'd you get here? And share some of that history, please.
Sure. So way back about 100 years ago when I became a school librarian, I remember walking into the back office of the school library where I was working, and I was lucky enough to have a position where I traveled between two schools. And you might be thinking, lucky, we're split between two schools, but I had a full-time librarian that worked in each, and so I really saw each of them as a mentor. And when I walked in, the full-time librarian that worked there handed me the NYLA brochure for a conference, and she's like, "You've got to go." And I was thinking, really? Like, in my first weeks as a school librarian, they're going to give me time off from school and they're going to give me money to attend a conference. And I put the request in, and sure enough, they approved it. And I was hooked from that time on. I was so excited to be surrounded by librarians of all, from all different types of libraries. And I should say library employees, because it wasn't just librarians. And to be in sessions with people learning and just exposed to so many different new ideas. And ever since then, way back in 1998, I've been involved with NYLA. So that was really my first experience.
That's amazing to walk into a new job and have that opportunity. It's terrific.
Yes.
And you all these years later. It's amazing.
Yes. And I'll ask you a little bit later about your pathway.
Okay, sure.
Yes.
So I already hinted that we know each other. So, you know, you want to just tell us how, or I don't know, that's not really.
Yeah. So, you know, it was interesting because our first interaction, we were trying to remember how we first met one another. And I think as I was coming on to the leadership and management section board as a board member, Claudia was ending her term on the board. And so we had just a brief time when we were on together. And it was a great experience because I was learning from someone who had an opportunity to serve as a member. And I just remember being in awe, thinking, wow, like someone who has such knowledge, depth of knowledge of leadership, and so many great experiences. And I just remember being so grateful for the opportunity to be on that board. And so that was my first experience meeting you. And then I'll let you tell about the other way that we know each other.
Right. Yeah, I was sorry that our ships passed for such a short time, but then when we both became active as co-creators with the sustainability initiative, it was wonderful to be able to work with you again. And so that for the last couple of years, I think that's really the majority of our time, besides being on council together for the last year, the majority of our time has been working together to develop those tools for the Sustainable Libraries Initiative. So
yeah, a whole lot of Thursday mornings together.
Yeah, yes. So what I should have said at the very, very beginning is if I just wanted to take a moment to applaud the entire NYLA staff, because, you know, initially when we first started talking about doing a virtual conference, I have to admit I was a little kind of like, oh, I felt it was going to be kind of underwhelming, and I'm so happy that I'm so wrong. Just, Jeremy and Becky, Colleen, Christina, and Bree, they have just put together something really amazing, and they've worked their New York Library Association butts off, and I think it's really great. So I just wanted to thank them, take this opportunity to thank them.
Yeah, I'll echo that too, because I've received in the messages a few things from people saying, oh, I'm so sorry that this isn't the conference you deserve. And I'm like, no, this conference is everything. It's been really amazing. And it's worth noting how much effort has gone into this and how wonderful it's been. I feel like I am surrounded by 750 friends, and the interaction is still there and the learning is still here, and this has really truly been a meaningful experience.
Mm-hmm. The conversations that have been happening in the chats, the way people are sharing information and asking great questions, that's absolutely an aspect that you don't get from sitting in a conference room with 100 other people. And also the fact that these are all being recorded. So even though there's 5 live sessions happening this morning that I wanted to go to, now at my leisure, we can all watch the other things that we missed out on. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So okay, let's move on. It's well documented that 2020 has been bananas. But I know that there are some good things that have happened this year. So could you just share some of the things that you accomplished as NYLA president that make you proud?
Sure. This was hard to think about what I really wanted to share, because, it has been a roller coaster of a year, and certainly emotions. And so when I start to think about what's been accomplished, my brain automatically goes to what hasn't been accomplished that I really wanted to do. And so I'm glad to be able to be reminded of what has happened. And so the thing I'm most proud of is just the interaction with members. I'm so grateful for the time I've been able to spend with our unit leaders, the section leaders, the deep, meaningful conversations about what NYLA is, what NYLA does, what NYLA should be, what we can do together to make this a meaningful organization that progresses forward instead of staying where we are. And I just am so grateful for that opportunity. I've had the opportunity to go to board meetings, membership meetings, and different section events, and I am so grateful for that opportunity. And then, of course, I've had an opportunity to go to virtual happy hours and make connections with people, and I'm also happy about that. One of the things that I wanted to also talk about is, NYLA staff. And it's been a rough year for NYLA staff, just in terms of the reorganization, which started before my time as NYLA president, but while I was on NYLA council. And I have to say that I'm really proud of the way this reorganization has taken place. I'm really proud of the trust in the process. I was with Jeremy on probably what was his hardest day as the executive director of NYLA, and I cannot say enough positive things about him as a leader that day. And I am just grateful for having had the opportunity to be there. So I'll just stop right there. I will say that at the start of the pandemic, NYLA had 2.5 staff members. And to think about running a statewide organization with 2.5 people is daunting. And since then, NYLA is at full staff with 5 staff members. And to think about running a statewide organization with 5 staff members is daunting. But seeing what's been accomplished and thinking about this team coming together and truly forming into something amazing is just, I'm super excited to see, just to see their work. And just, I mean, this conference is a reflection of them and what's possible. And so I'm really proud of that. It's not because of me, it's because of the work that's I'll say because of what's happened through council, through the reorganization, through the executive director, through membership saying what needs to happen, I think it's like this whole team approach that makes it possible. So I'm just grateful for that. I have a couple things, and I'm sorry, it's a lot. Please stop me if you have questions. You know, another thing that I'm really proud of is this focus on core values. And I was super, you know, how hard it is to pick a theme for conference, right? Very hard. And I picked strengthening our core on purpose because I think we get stuck in the momentum of doing our daily activities without always reflecting on why we're doing the work we're doing. And I wanted us to stop and think and be strategic. And that's why I picked strengthening our core, because I wanted us to think about the core values of librarianship. And seeing this conference and seeing the intentionality of what people are talking about has been just incredible. And I'm really proud that we're having meaningful conversation about that. The keynote yesterday, hearing some of what Rebecca Miller was talking about, the conversation with the state librarian and hearing the conversation there, that was meaningful. Hearing it in conversations outside of conference is meaningful. And so I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to talk about things that are meaningful, deeply meaningful, makes me proud. Our work is important, not just because we're connecting with our community, but because we're changing our communities so that we can have real impact.
I think the way that the conference program has highlighted those core values right up there, telling you what what programs are supporting those values, I think is perfect. Really, it was wonderful, and I appreciate your return to the focus of core values, because I think honestly a lot of times, I've been a library director for a long time now, and it's a thing that you just sort of like, oh yes, ALA has these core values, whatever, before the last couple of years, could you recite what they are? Do you know anything beyond sort of like intellectual freedom? Maybe I'm wrong in saying that, but I feel like we've had a real recentering on those things, and I think it's great for our profession, for our publics. Yeah.
Thank you. And even now, I mean, and I said I wasn't going to get political this week, and I'm not. I'm not, but with everything that's happened, with everything that's happened, you can see that our nation's forgotten that we have values. And so I think that the more we can remember that we have to hold dear that things that matter, including people, but there's a reason that we do this work. It's not just to collect a paycheck, but we do this work because it has meaning, it has value. It's not just to put books on a shelf. It's not just to it's for a purpose. And so it has, I think it can't just be for us, but we then need to take it and we need to help educate the people that we serve as to why we're doing this. So
I think
that's the next step.
Yeah. I just have one brief comment on that. Sure. As a public library, one of the things that we have done is keep people's privacy really, we take that really, really importantly, whatever. And so, we have practices in place where unless you've signed this particular thing saying so-and-so can have access to my library record, we don't just let family members come in and take stuff and say, oh, no, I can pick up for my spouse, or I can, and we're protecting the public's privacy, and they don't realize it, and so that core value of is really important for us to educate people on it, and in the ways in which everybody's putting everything out on the internet, we really need to refocus on that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well, I'm glad to hear that example. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you. The other thing that's happened, and you've talked about this in your I forget what it's called, but in the presidential address is sustainability. It's amazing, but we have our first cohort of school librarians who are participating in the certification program, and I couldn't be any prouder that we have you know, school librarians who are actively seeking to be certified in this program. We have 10 who are participating, one who is on the cusp of being certified. And I know it's going to happen this year. It's so close, and I'm just glad it's happening. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about, and it's not NYLA related, but it happened because of NYLA, is that because of being NYLA president, I've been invited into school library systems to offer professional development because of the pandemic. And because of that, I've been able to work with a quarter of the school library systems across the state to offer professional development. So since March, I've offered more than 70 hours of professional development, which is about 200 hours of planning time. And these aren't double chins. These are the bags hanging from under my eyes. I'm so exhausted from it, but I'm so, and I say this because I'm so proud of our school librarians and what they've accomplished. I know that they're tired. I know they're exhausted. I know that they feel at times defeated and at times hopeless, but at times they feel energized and excited because they, like, every part of their practice has changed significantly. And I know other librarians feel this too with the pandemic, but they're making incredible things happen for their students. And I'm so grateful that because of this position, I've been invited in to help them transform their practice so that they can do what they can during this change. And I just thank you to all of you, because you've given me that opportunity by electing me president of NYLA. So thank you everyone for allowing that. And I'm grateful that this opportunity continues beyond this presidency. So I'm just super grateful.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot, but it's fun, and it's meaningful. It keeps things moving forward. It keeps our profession, I was going to say relevant, but it's more than that. It's more than that. And I don't know what the right word is, but we're doing important work that has to happen.
Absolutely. Okay. So, you know, my next question for you is funny, because you've done so much has happened this year, and even with the pause of COVID, I'm sorry to even ask the question, but because it makes it seem like things haven't been happening, and that's entirely not the case. But is there anything that you had planned on doing this year that maybe didn't get to happen because of COVID? Or are there any areas that you think are focused?
I have a list of things for you for that too. So no, these are good things though. These are the exciting things. I'm glad that you asked. So actually there's a couple of things in the last couple meetings that council had, and I'm so grateful for the way that NYLA is set up, where we have you know, president-elect, president, and immediate past president, so that there's this transition where we all get to work together and, you know, things flow nicely. But as you know, we just recently developed 2 different task forces. And so we have one that's specifically created to focus on diversity. And we've asked Jeremy to sort of lead the charge with that. That doesn't mean that he's doing the work. He's sort of in charge of making sure that all of the pieces are communicated out. And we gave him I guess the opportunity to wait until after conference, because conference had to be priority. And so what he's going to be doing is developing some SMART goals with that, so that we know what the deliverables are going to be. But what we want to do is focus on understanding diversity and what it means for our organization and how we can be not just more inclusive, but culturally responsive. How can we take a look at our policies, our procedures? What are we doing that shows that we value diversity, that we understand it even, that this is something that that we use not just as a lens for our work, but is driving our work, that you know, there's so much around this. One of our council members brought up, this is something we've been talking about for decades and nothing has changed. And she was absolutely right. And so we have major work to do, but it has to be something that can't just be this nebulous idea of diversity, but it has to be brought down into, so what are we going to do? And so it's a big task, but we're going to develop a task force to make it so that actionable change happens. So Jeremy is leading that, but it's going to be something where members are invited in to make the work happen. The other task force you heard about yesterday from Tim Fergal at the membership meeting, which is all about pathways to librarianship. And this is very much related. And what's exciting about this is that it's thinking about what are the barriers that are in place for people who want to join our profession and can't for whatever reason. And so I'm so excited that Tim is leading this effort and is making progress. And there will be a meeting in December, December 3rd at 3 p.m. You don't need to write that down. We'll send information, and anyone who's interested in joining is more than welcome. There'll be the task force, but then there'll also be smaller committees involved. And so lots and lots of opportunities to get involved, have your opinions heard. So I'm super excited about that. There's definitely an intersection in terms of the work that's taking place, and we recognize that it shouldn't, you know, your rank in the profession should not be based on the color of your skin. It shouldn't be based on your socioeconomic status. And we're definitely missing out if we aren't inviting people into our profession who come from diverse backgrounds. And I am so grateful that that we're doing this work. And I'm so grateful that it's not work that's happening just at the council level. It's not just work happening with a small committee, but this is work that's going to be member driven. And it's not just members, it's the profession. And it's not just the profession, but people who have been denied the opportunity to join our profession. So it extends beyond. And then the last thing is, oh, actually 2 more things. Sorry. There's a civil service committee that was just developed, and that comes from your previous work, Claudia, which was a task force that has been turned into a committee because it's ongoing long-term work. And then the very last thing is the strategic plan that I alluded to yesterday at the membership meeting. It just didn't seem right to move forward with it during the pandemic. And so I pass everything to you that's been done. If it's valuable, use it. If it's not valuable, I support you in whatever you want to do. So don't feel like you have to take what I did and make it work. I'm happy to, you know, rethink things with you. I'm happy to step out of the way. I'm happy to, whatever you need, I support you fully in that.
Thank you. I can't imagine asking you to step out of the way as part of that, so don't worry. You don't get off that easily.
Thank you. I love strategic planning, so I'm glad to hear that. I'm probably like one of 3 people in the whole wide world who like it. So
that reminds me of, I've had two director positions where, like, the first week I walked into the job, the board was like, hey, it's budget season. Here you go, figure out the budget. And I'm like, okay, great, let's dig in. And they were, you know, both situations, people were like, you like budget season? I'm like, yeah, I do actually. So there
That's
you go.
awesome.
You like strategic planning season. I think, I think that strategic plan will absolutely be informed by, the work of the two task forces that you mentioned, particularly, the output of the diversity in our organization, whatever comes out of that. And we have some guesses of what that might look like, but, that will absolutely inform, I think, where we go for the, if we change the mission and setting all of our goals for the future. So we'll have to, it'll all be stepped.
Yes.
So speaking of steps, you're stepping into the role of past president, which from what I understand is actually the more labor intensive year of the 3-year presidential trajectory. So
I'm in denial, don't say that.
So besides girding yourself for that, do you have any advice that you can give me as I take office, as I fill your shoes?
Yep, I have 3 things that I wanted to share. The first is to focus on the members, and I'm gonna share a story, and I'll think of it from the point of view of being a school librarian. In a school, everyone's coming at you from a different angle. So like you have your principal who might be saying, you have to address these standards. You have to worry about this budget. You have all these things you have to worry about, and you have parents who are demanding these things. And it's real easy to worry about, your teachers who want this. And so you start to think about things, and you're trying to please your administrator, and you're trying to please your teachers. And it's easy to forget why you're there, which is your students. And the same thing can happen at NYLA, where you're trying to you want to think about, how am I going to advocate for this thing? And so you start to think about, how am I going to address this with a legislator? Or you're trying to think about, I have to figure out how to balance this budget, or you're thinking about all the things, and you forget to think about your members. But if you're always thinking about your members and you make decisions in that way, you'll always be making the right decision. So just like in a school, if I'm always thinking about my students, I'm always going to be making the right decision. And so just keep that at the center of what you're doing, and it's going to be real easy.
It's the why, right? It's the
It's your why. Exactly.
Yeah. Let's come back to this thing.
It's exactly what it is. And then the other thing is that your time and energy shouldn't be divided up like a pie. And it's hard to remember, but when you look at the different sections of NYLA, you'll notice right away, like, oh, here's a section that's for public librarians. Here's another one that's for public librarians, and another one for public librarians. And here's another one. Oh, wait, this one might be for special librarians. And so you might be thinking like, oh, I have to give like all my time here to public librarians, and then here's a little bit of time I'll give to special librarians, and a little bit of time to academic librarians, and a little bit of time to school librarians. And it can't work that way, or you have a lot of disenfranchised members. And so your time is not like a pie. You have to give it equally. And it's hard to do, because there's a lot of demands. And so it just can't work that way. And so I think of it all the time, and forgive me, but I'm going to use the example of a prison librarian. If we have one prison librarian, that person is just as deserving as every other member of your time and attention. They're just as deserving as a fabulous conference, just as deserving of a newsletter that addresses their needs, just as deserving of advocacy that meets their needs. And so somehow you have to figure out how to make sure that your messaging and everything would address what they're focused on. So it's hard. But like that always is running through my mind, that everyone deserves, for you to be focused on them. And then, so my third piece of advice might help. with that, use your team, and you've got a huge team, a support team. You have council, committees, NYLA staff, even the membership. Everyone is here to help you. We all want you to succeed. And so don't be afraid to ask. Like, you've got all of us who want nothing more than for you to have the most wildly successful year. And so just know that we're rooting for you. We've got your back. If you need anything, just reach out. That's what we're here for. That's why this system is set up the way it is so that you have everything that you need for, you know, if you need someone to help with planning, we're here. If you need a little group to do something, we're here. So you're not alone in any of this.
Thank you. It's hard sometimes to remember that, you know, so thank you for reiterating that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. Are you ready for some questions?
I'm ready. Let me drink some water.
All right. Now, this is the part I'm really excited for.
Okay.
All right. So now I'm curious. What's your path to NYLA, and then why NYLA presidency? How did you get to this?
Well, I joined NYLA in 2009. So I was really lucky enough to attend the Long Island University the certification program for public library administrators. And I attended that at a library that was in the Mid-Hudson library system. I was still a relatively new director at that point, and had mostly been dealing with people in my own library system, which is the Ramapo Catskill library system. So it was wonderful to meet people who do things a different way, who are coming from a different system. And I met Rebecca Smith Aldrich as part of that coursework, and she suggested that I join the leadership and management section of NYLA. And at that point it was called Library Administration and Management. I think I believe that was the title of the section. And I joined the board at a point where the board was sort of expanding. And as part of that work, we slightly tweaked. We changed the name of the section to Leadership and Management section, and really made an effort to, you know, that section had always been one that was welcoming of people from all different library types. You know, as you mentioned earlier, you know, it's not just for publics, it's not just for academics or school librarians or special. And I just really enjoyed it. And at one point I was president of LAMS and got to be on council as the chair of that section. And I just really thought, well, this is just terrific. Like, you know, so great to network around the state and get to work with people from all different, not just in different areas, but different kinds of libraries, people of, you know, it really opened my eyes. And I thought, this is something I'd really like to be more involved in. So I wasn't, you know, when I went off the council for LAMS, I thought, you know, I don't want to leave yet. So I ran for treasurer, and that was a 3-year commitment at that point. And I just, again, found that the organization was one that I really, you know, I believe in the mission, and felt like I could offer some support to it. And so when I finished that 3-year term as treasurer, I sort of thought in my head, and maybe said to some other people, I'm really interested in running for president when the next public library spot comes along. And I was so fortunate to be voted in. So there I am.
Wonderful. Oh, that's such a good story. I love it. What are your top 3 goals for NYLA during this next year?
Well, my top 3 goals, we've already talked about all of them really, but for sure, you know, launching the Sustainable Libraries Initiative outside New York State is just, I think, so important to the organization, to me, to you, to so many people who have worked on it. You know, the SLI has been in development for 5 years. Several public libraries have been fully certified. You mentioned the 10 school librarians that are in the midst of working on individual certification. We've had three libraries do the beta testing, or academic libraries do beta testing. So, we have the tools. The tools, I think, are ready. And this is the first program of its kind where where all the decisions that a library makes or a librarian makes can be viewed through the sort of lens of the triple bottom line of sustainability. And given where we are in our communities, in the world, with the environment, with political upheaval, what we need to really be focusing on is anchoring our communities. And I use community in a general term, whether your community is the public or a campus or a school, or a special library. We need to be focusing our communities in a way where they're recognizing that every decision we make has to be supporting not just the environment and not just the economics, but the social justice angles as well. And so that is all wrapped up into the Sustainable Library Certification Program. And people are ready for it. There's libraries in place, there's libraries in Colorado and British Columbia. They're like, okay, when can we get this? When can we get this? And so this is the year that I think we need to launch that. And there's been talks with the national organization to try and get that out there. And I think this is the year we're going to get that to happen.
Wonderful.
And I'm really super excited about it because I think this is a major shift in the way in which libraries do things. And it's really just going to support our communities and help us bounce back and be tighter and be more together. So there's that. Next is the work of the two task forces that we talked about, the Pathways to Librarianship and the diversity in our organization. And as we said, the work of both of those is going to inform one another, and then also inform the strategic plan, which, I fully, totally respect and recognize how difficult it would be to do that in the midst of COVID. My library, the Haverstraw King's Daughters Public Library, we planned to also do strategic plan the last fiscal year, and it just sort of, we were just trying to understand everything and just didn't feel that to layer strategic planning on top of that was going to be appropriate or useful in any way. So we also are going to be picking that up for this year. So I think that, the task forces, the Strategic Libraries Initiative, and all of the other work that the sections and the roundtables and the committees are doing, I think that's all going to be part of putting together the strategic plan. So we'll be looking for lots of input from our members, and it's going to be great.
It's nice how it all fits together perfectly.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm sorry to go backwards, but I like when you talk about the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, how you bring up social justice, because I think, we're lucky in New York where, this comes from New York, right? So we're well versed in it, but anyone who hasn't had an opportunity yet to hear about sustainable libraries, or to go to any of the presentations or to be living and breathing this, might not understand fully that sustainability doesn't necessarily just mean environmental sustainability. Do you want to give a little plug about what all it might incorporate?
So right. So when we think of sustainability, we sort of frame it within this triple bottom line, which is like a three-legged stool. And if you attended the program yesterday that Rebecca Smith-Aldrich and Matthew Bollerman talked about, sort of regenerative thinking, it's sort of an outgrowth, I think, where if you have any one side of that triple bottom line, or any side of that three-legged stool, if one side's bigger, then the others are weaker. And what you need to have is sort of a perfect balance. And so I apologize, my dog is outside the door wanting to come in. And so that was Ruby, sorry, moving on. So, when we think of sustainability, most of the time, or the first thing that comes to people's mind is sort of the green, the environmental side of it. And that is absolutely important. And so that's absolutely sort of a large phase of the program, where you're looking at your energy usage and you're looking at the way in which transportation and water use and electricity and all those sorts of things, where if, you know, you're making sure that the decisions you're making are taking the environment into account, into consideration. Then you also have the financial side of things, where you need to be sure that you're doing things that are fiscally responsible. You know, many public libraries and school libraries, you know, we're tax funded, and so we need to be making decisions that are smart and sustainable in a way that means we'll still have money in future years. And then the other side, that other leg, is this social justice, the equity of things. You can't be making decisions that are saying, okay, this is great, let's go ahead and do this, you know, a great project for our building, but it might be causing problems in the neighborhood and where the building is located. Or we might be moving a building in a way that's going to create a loss in a neighborhood, and that would not be supporting all three legs of that stool. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thought it was good to do a little plug. All right, so what's something you wish more people knew about NYLA?
This is something that you touched on, actually, and I think the thing that I really want people to understand about the New York Library Association is that it's for everyone in the library community. We're all in. And that's my theme for next year, but ding, ding, ding. But, you know, at times it feels like it's a public library, like the public library contingent is maybe taking over. And that means that we as public library folks need to step back and let other voices be heard. Like, we can't take up all the air in the room, you know? And there's a lot of us. It's the largest, it's the largest portion of membership. So I'm not saying that we need to, you know, walk away, but we need to allow other voices to be heard. You know, and one of the things that I really appreciate and admire about NYLA is the thoughtfulness that was put into the succession planning. So the leadership, the presidential role, is filled by someone from a different library type each year. So you're from a school library, you're the school library representative. I'm the public library representative. Next year, when Beth Markle becomes president, she's the special academic. You know, she comes from a special library. So it you know, that built-in that built-in succession really allows the leadership to highlight the innovation of the different library types, and it brings it to the forefront. And I think that's a beautiful strength for our organization. You know, we've got 5,600 members currently, and it's hard to let every voice be heard. But you know, sometimes we need to, I don't know if you've ever been to a bluegrass concert where, you know, you've got your session, you've got all your musicians standing around one microphone. And as the mandolin player gets his solo or her solo, they step up to the mic and they play, and then they step back because the fiddle player moves up and gets to do their bit, and then they step back, and then the guitar comes up. And you know, that it moves in this sort of beautiful rotation, and I think that's really what we need to be focusing on. I think you really come to appreciate the sort of synchrony of the thought and action across the different organizations when you participate in NYLA Council, because that's really when you get a chance to see like what all is happening around the whole table. It's a big table at NYLA Council, and when you actively participate, you know, on the board of a section or something, you really get to see and then get a chance to be on council. You really get a chance to see that, and I think it's wonderful. So, you know, I think, you know, I highly recommend people get more involved. You're here at the conference with us. It's just one more step.
Very nice. Nice. All right. Well, I think we're ready for some questions. Jeremy?
I'm here. Like everyone, I get the ubiquitous. Let me unmute my mic.
Yes.
I'm not the only one with a problem. Yay.
No. And I'll even turn my camera on. So I encourage everyone. There's been lots of fun running conversations happening in the chat, and a lot of comments being made. So I'll remind everyone who's watching us on the NYLA conference website that just off to, let's see if I can do this right, off to the right is the chat pane where you can put your questions in. Also, if you click on right here, the presenter, or yeah, the participants button, then you'll be able to raise your hand, and we'll even be able to open your mic, which is kind of cool. So right out of the gate, buckle up, Jim Neal throwing hard balls, as Jim is known to do. So you can both weigh in if you like. But how will NYLA help the state's libraries and library workers deal successfully and creatively with the crises of the pandemic, economic and budgets, and racial and social justice?
Well,
yeah.
Would that be the award-winning Jim Neal who asked the question?
It would be.
He deserves an award-winning answer. Claudia, you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Either way. I'll start.
You start.
And I'll start, and I'll say that these are the question. That's the question of our age.
Yes, it is.
You know, some of that work is work that is actively addressed in the Sustainable Libraries Initiative and in the task forces that we have just talked about. And so I think that's how that's the work of the next 12 months.
Right. I would say too that I know that NYLA's been trying to work really hard with systems to try and leverage opportunities. This work is so hard right now. And so for any individual or even an individual library to try to do anything alone just feels too overwhelming. And so we have to leverage opportunities to come together and work together so that we can be stronger in that way. And I think that's the only way that we can be successful is by learning from one another, working together, trying to figure out how we can just make meaning from what we're doing. So what's successful in one place, how can we take that practice and share it elsewhere? And what's not successful, how can we make sure we're not replicating that anywhere else? I think we have to be learning and working together.
Yeah, we have to be all in together. And
good one, Claudia. Good one.
but you know, I don't think that the library community can look to just NYLA like as you know Jeremy and his staff, or even just the council, and say, okay, the terrors that are 2020, fix this, give us a plan. Like it can't work that way, because we need all the voices. We need everybody to be in, participating on the work with us. So again, be involved. attend the town hall on December 3rd. Raise your hand to participate in the different committees or task forces that there have been calls for or will be calls soon, because that's where that work's going to happen. That's the direction. The steps are going to be start to be laid out there.
So, Claudia, I may have been watching too many Halloween movies lately, but the next question is coming from inside the building. Nicola from Haverstraw, giving voice to her question. A previous session mentioned professionals leaving the field, particularly people of color. Will the work of the Pathways to Librarianship also include a focus on people already in the profession and pathways for them to grow within the field?
Yes. That's exactly, yep, absolutely. That's part of it.
Yep. There will be a page on the NYLA website. I'm not sure if it's up yet, Jeremy, right? But it's going to be nyla.org/pathways. And that's where some documentation that we've already put together. There's been, there's 5 or 6 of us that have been working so far. It's Jen and Jeremy and myself, Tim Fergal, Amanda Shvuli, and Bree McNamee, who have put together sort of the idea for what the task force could work on, and some of that language, specifically Nicola, is in there. It's not just about getting people into the profession, but it's about retaining people in the profession. Yeah.
Yes. So that URL again, the page will be up. I'm hoping it will be up by Monday. But it's nyla.org/pathways.
Wow, look at your power, Claudia, already as president. I like this.
So yes, and lots of kudos in the chat from the membership, thanking you all for their being front and center for this hour, giving everyone an opportunity to get to know you both a little bit better. So. So we're coming up on time. I want to thank both of you. I want to thank the entire NYLA Council. I want to particularly thank Jen for her leadership through a very challenging year. And Claudia, look forward to working with you and your fresh crop of council members on a 2020 that's only looking up. I do just a couple of housekeeping notes while I've got a bunch of you in your ears. If you click the sessions tab and you go to filter them, you can select the awards. And we do encourage you all to take a moment, because the other piece that's missing from not having the inaugural banquet is the opportunity for our award winners to give their acceptance speeches and hear from those folks who have been recognized for their phenomenal efforts and work for the library community. And I want to give voice to their names. So the Outstanding Service to Library Award went to Sandra Michelle Eccles, who you know from council as well as the New York Black Librarians Caucus. The Outstanding Advocate for Libraries Award was awarded to Senator Rachel May from the Syracuse area for her work in supporting libraries. The Mary Babinski Innovative Public Library Director Award was awarded to Melissa Tackey from the Castleton Public Library. And the Intellectual Freedom Award was given to James Neal, who you know from his question earlier, as well as his work with ALA. And we also awarded out Dewey Fellowships, which we'll list on the website for you. So please do take a moment to view through their acceptance speeches. Whether they're there, they're recorded, and we want to make sure you have the opportunity to hear from them.
The Above and Beyond Award.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I was missing off of my cheat sheet. The NYLA Above and Beyond Award, which recognizes an individual for their ongoing and above and beyond support of the Library Association, goes this year to Dr. Barbara Stripling. Some of you know from Syracuse University, and so her acceptance speech is also there as well. Thank you for saving me from missing that.
Congratulations to everybody.
To all
awesome
of them.
work.
Yes.
Thank you. And also to the people who put forward those names, because even just writing the application to nominate someone, it's work, and everybody has had a lot of work. And so it's wonderful for those people to get recognized by their peers. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we log off, though, I do think we need to congratulate Madam President Claudia Depkin.
Thank you.
Yes, I wish you all the best this year. It's going to be a wonderful year.
Thank you so much. Thanks for leading the way. It's been a great year. It's been a wacky year. It's been a great year. Thank you, Jen. Thanks, Jeremy.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for joining in. As always, I'll remind you again to take a look into the exhibit hall. It makes all of this go around. And our next session's kicking off in only 20 minutes. So a little break before we jump into the next one. So I hope to see you all again soon, and never hesitate to reach out and contact the office. Thanks everyone.
Bye. Thank you.